So today's lecture is about the central nervous system tracts. So first of all, we must know what is the basic concept about the tract, what is meant by the tracts. Let me tell you one thing. Let's suppose that there are a lot of rats sitting here. These are many rats. I don't know how to draw rats, but anyway, and they are having tails, and their tails are going upward, and if all these tails together making a bundle of tails, right, this bundle of tails, right, this can be called tract. Let me tell you how. Neuron may be taken as a rat. Every neuron has a long axon. In central nervous system, if a group of neurons having lot of axons, and these axons are making a bundle, and that bundle of axons, right, which are moving up and down in central nervous system, they are considered tract, right? So what are tracts? Tracts are the bundle of axons within the central nervous system having common origin, common termination, and tracts are moving up and down. Let me make this concept more clear. First of all, you must know what is the difference between gray matter and white matter in central nervous system, right? As I told you, let's suppose that these are some neurons, cell bodies of neurons, and these are their axons, right? Now, this collection of cell bodies, this is called gray matter. What is it called? Gray matter. And these, their axons, they are called white matter. If we think neurons are like rats and very long tails, then where a lot of rats are sitting together, what is that? Gray matter. And where a lot of tails are going, what is that? White matter. So first concept should be there, what is gray matter and what is white matter in central nervous system. Then next concept which is important is that in the central nervous system, let me draw this as suppose your central nervous system, right? Now, there are some neurons which are present at lower level and their axons are going up. Of course, this bundle of axon is white matter. And when white matter is making bundles and these bundles of axons are moving up and down, they are called tracts. The bundle of axons which are moving from lower level of central nervous system, moving as a bundle to upper level, right, they are considered ascending tracts. Opposite to that, let's suppose there are a group of neurons here, cell bodies, and these are their white matter or axons, and these axons are coming downward in the neuronal axis. Now, this bundle of axons which are having common origin, common termination, is that right? So this bundle of axon, this is called also tract, but because cell bodies are at upper level and axons are coming downward, so this should be considered descending tracts. So what are tracts? Tracts are bundles of axon, right, which are having common origin and common termination, and they are present in the central nervous system in cephalocaudal axis. They are connecting the central nervous system upper part with the lower part and lower part of the central nervous system with the upper part. Now those tracts which take the information from the lower part of the central nervous system to the upper part, they are called ascending tracts. And those tracts which take information from the upper part of the central nervous system and bring it down, they are called descending tract. Is that right? Another thing which I want to make it clear here, as you know that axons together are called white matter. Is that right? That is called white matter. And this white matter we have divided into vertically present, up and down. And these are which are vertically connecting. These are of course tracts. And what will be this? This is ascending tract. And this is, yes, descending tract. Then there is some white matter which connect the central nervous system anteroposteriorly. There are some bundles of axons which connect the central nervous system anteroposteriorly. What are these called? Yes, please. Yes, please. The bundle of axon which connect the central nervous system components anteroposteriorly. For example, frontal lobe connected with occipital, right? These are called, they associate the anterior part of central nervous system with the posterior part, and posterior part is associated with the anterior part. They are called association fibers. So white matter has tracts as well as association fibers. Is that right? And third type is that there are other bundle of axons which connect the central nervous system right and left. There are, of course, what is white matter? White matter is just collection of axons. Is that right? Collections of cell bodies are gray matter and collection of axons are white matter. Then white matter or collection of axons are making bundles and connecting up and down in the central nervous system. These are tracts. When same bundles connecting anteroposteriorly, they are called association fiber. And when they are connecting right and left, they are called, yes please, they are called commissures. They are called commissures. Why I revise a little bit this thing, that I want to put the tracts into proper perspective in your mind, right? That tracts are white matter, association fibers are white matter, commissural fibers are white matters. All of these are fibers. The only difference is tracts are those bundles of fibers which connect in central nervous system up and down. Association fibers are those bundle of axons which connect the central nervous system anteroposteriorly or postero-anteriorly. And commissures are those central nervous system fibers which connect the central nervous system components right and left. Is that clear? Can you give me some example of a commissure? Please tell me corpus callosum. There's such a big commissure which connects the right cerebral hemisphere with the left and of course left with the right. And there are many other commissures in central nervous system. Is that right? Now, once you have really clear concept of what are tracts, now I will make some concept related with the ascending tracts and descending tracts, right? And then we will deal with individual tracts. To really develop the concept of ascending and descending tract, you should go back to the very basic concept how central nervous system works. The function of central nervous system is that it should receive all the sensory information. It should receive the sensory information. Then it should process the sensory information, and then it should make the decisions. This is the basic function of the central nervous system. Let's suppose here is your central nervous system, right? Now here is your hand. Now suddenly you touch your hand with a very hot thing. So naturally what will happen? Some stimulus will come, you to touch your finger with something hot, right? Now that information should go to the central nervous system. Information number one should go to the central nervous system. Of course, when you have a stimulus, right? When you have a stimulus, a certain receptor will be activated. What will be activated? Receptor will be activated. Okay, don't get something very hot, maybe it will burn. Okay, you touch something very decent and you love to touch it, and then you start touching it again and again. How will it work? You're touching it, you liked it, and then you started touching again and again. I'm talking about you. Now, how the whole nervous system worked? You touch it, the stimulus of touch, mechanical stimulus, should be converted into electrochemical action potentials. So what really happens? When you touch something, there should be some apparatus here. There should be some apparatus here which should convert stimulus energy. Which should convert stimulus energy into action potential, right? So that electrochemical fluctuations, which are called action potential, should move along the axons to the central nervous system, right? Now, this apparatus which convert the energy of a stimulus into electrochemical fluctuations, right? This apparatus is called, what is the name of this apparatus? These are called receptors. Oh my God! You people hide your knowledge. Write it down. What are receptors? Neuronal receptor, write it down. If you don't know that, you don't know anything about nervous system. What are receptors? Receptors are transducers, biological transducers. Then you must be asking, what is transducer? Transducers are certain operators which can convert one type of energy into another type of energy. Anything, any biological thing which can convert one type of energy into another type of energy, that is called transducers. And in our body, such biological transducers are simply called receptors. So what are receptors? You must know the definition at least. Receptors are special operators, right? That may be free nerve endings, or there may be some special group of cells attached with the nerve ending, which can convert a very special type of stimulus energy into electrochemical energy of action potential. Is that right? These are called receptors. Do you have receptor for electromagnetic waves? You don't have it. Do you have receptors for electromagnetic wave? That electromagnetic wave come to your body and you convert that into action potential and respond to that? No. Okay, you don't have it. I think these two are blinds. Oh my God, light is the visible part of the electromagnetic waves. And you do have light receptors. They are called rods and cones. What are rods and cones? Very unique operators which can convert visible light energy into action potentials in optic nerve. Oh my God, you people are really... No comments. Stop recording. Right? So we must know what is receptor. Receptors are the biological apparatuses usually at the end of the sensory nerve endings which are supposed to convert the particular type of stimulus into action potentials. Right? Taste buds are chemical receptors. The chemicals in the food can be tasted. They can convert the taste chemical interaction into action potentials. Even when you have some very good smell of fragrance or cologne, what are those things? From there are evaporating molecules which go to your nose, then they go to the olfactory mucosa. In the olfactory mucosa there are receptors. When your very good smell molecules interact with those receptors, this chemical interaction is converted into action potential. This is the very first and basic concept in sensory nervous system, that there should be a receptor. And sometimes free nerve endings act as receptors. Is that right? So, we are talking about ascending tracts. I will come to that. Let me put it at right position in your mind. First of all, when you are touching something, the mechanical deformation, suppose someone touch me here, right? Just slight deformation in the tissue will activate certain receptors. And those mechanical receptors will convert the mechanical energy into action potential. And if stimulus is not subthreshold, stimulus is threshold or suprathreshold, action potential will start moving in the sensory nerves. So there should be receptor, and then from the receptors, action potential through the sensory nerves should come to the central nervous system. Once action potentials are brought to the central nervous system, for example, spinal cord, it brings a lot of action potentials. Is that right? Through 31 pairs of nerves. Is that right? A lot of action potentials are coming to the spinal cord. Some decisions are made within the spinal cord, but some decisions have to be made at the higher level. Is that right? So, this information which is coming to the central nervous system, it may be taken upward. It is taken at higher level through a chain of neurons. For example, it goes up to the cerebral cortex. Now, these bundles which are taking these biological cables, which are taking the information from lower level to the upward, these are ascending tracts. Then in the central nervous system, decision will be made. For example, you have touched someone and that person respond unfavorably. And then you decide to pull your hand in a very sad way backward. Is that right? Now what happened? You touched, action potential came, you are in the process of enjoying here, then with the eye you see unpleasant response. Again, more information through the eyes goes and you decide that response may be dangerous by the other person. Is that right? What happens? Central nervous decision is to pull the hand back. Then, from higher center, orders should come down. What is this? descending tract. What is this? Descending tract. And of course, then a very sad neuron, black colored, it is taking the information to the muscles to pull the finger back. What is this? Motor neuron. This is the simplest form how the central nervous system works. It collects the information, it processes the information, it makes a decision and sends the order out. The collection system is, there is a receptor, then there are sensory neurons coming to central nervous system, then there are ascending tracts, then higher level processing, then there are descending tracts, then there are motor nerves, and in the end there is the effector system. Effector system may be a muscle or gland. Sometimes gland response, if there is a very good food with very good smell, how the system will work? Smell, receptor in the olfactory mucosa, action potential to central nervous system. Central nervous system decides a good smell, last time you enjoyed it, so pathways will come down, stimulate the certain motor neurons, which stimulate the parotid gland and other salivary glands, and you start producing saliva. Or if someone else is a host, then maybe you decide to give a smile also, so that he starts the food activity for you. Is that right? So this is the basic thing. Now we are very clear what are tracts. These are the bundles of the neurons, right? And ascending tracts take the information from lower part of the central nervous system and take it upward. And descending tract take the decisions from central nervous system and bring at the lower level. So by this discussion, now it must be very clear, whenever we talk about the ascending tract, no doubt they must be always for the sensory system. They will be always connected with the sensory system. And whenever we talk about descending tracts, they must be connected with the motor system. Is that clear to you people? Fine. Now we go into detail of tracts. What do you think? In the spinal cord, tracts will be part of white matter or grey matter? Of course, they must be part of white matter. So let's see in the spinal cord, a little bit structure of spinal cord. Right, let's suppose here is your spinal cord. Is that right? And here is central canal. What do you think? What are these things? These are cell bodies of neurons. So this must be grey matter or white matter? Grey matter, right? Grey matter and spinal cord makes a butterfly shape or H shape, right? And this grey matter, these blue circles are the rats, neuron cell body, right? What is really there? This is dorsal horn of the grey matter of the spinal cord. These are ventral horn, or simply call it anterior horns and posterior horns. And at some level of the spinal cord, they do have, what is this? Lateral horn of spinal cord. We'll discuss that later. Right now that is not our concern. Our concern is to talk about the white matter in the spinal cord, which must be having our tracts, which we are going to discuss. Now white matter in the spinal cord is, this is the white matter, this is the white matter, this is white matter, but let me make it more clear. These are which neurons going out? Do you think these are motor or sensory? These are motor. Right? And what are these neurons going? Okay, I will make it. This is the motor root. This is the motor root of what? Yes, motor root of spinal cord. And here there should be, yes, sensory root. Now, motor fibers come out of central nervous system through, yes, ventral root or motor root. Is that right? And sensory fiber, sensory information is taken to the central nervous system through the dorsal root. And dorsal root ganglion is actually, there is a cell body, right? And from here there is a unipolar. There is one connection coming out and it has one central process. Another is peripheral, which is connected maybe with the skin or whatever. So it has to take information from the periphery, sensory system, taking the information eventually to the dorsal root, and dorsal root is connected with the spinal cord. Is that right? Now, okay, what you understand, this is the ventral root and this is the dorsal root, and dorsal root is having which ganglion? Which ganglion is present in dorsal root? Dorsal root ganglion, right? Then, what is this thing? Both roots unite together, and what they make? This is the trunk of the spinal nerve, classical spinal nerve, right? Ventral root, dorsal root, and trunk, and then it divides into one thing going anteriorly, other going posteriorly. What is this thing? This is always having which fibers? Of course, you are wrong. No, mixed. You have to learn it more clearly. Oh my God, you want to learn tract, but first you have to learn the roots. Okay, listen. What happens? That this is anterior ramus. This is posterior ramus. Sometimes ventral ramus come together and make plexus, which is called like brachial plexus or lumbar plexus. But for a while, you just trust me that from the spinal cord, there are ventral roots and dorsal roots, and together they make the spinal nerve trunk. And that trunk classically divided into ventral ramus and dorsal ramus. Is that right? Ventral ramus is usually innervating the structures in anterolateral wall of the body, and dorsal ramus is going to innervate the structures which are on the back of the body. Is that right? Of course, on the back there's skin, so there must be sensory, but there are muscles also on the back. So it means some motor fibers also go to the back, to the dorsal ramus. In the same way, some sensory fibers are coming through anterolateral skin or anterolateral receptors and structures. Is that right? And some motor fiber must be going to the muscles of anterolateral wall. So this is a very, very basic concept, that roots are pure. Anterior root is purely motor. Posterior root is purely sensory. But trunks are mixed and rami are mixed. Am I clear? So it means that sensory information is coming from ventral ramus as well as from dorsal ramus. But when it goes to the trunk, it segregates separately as sensory input to the central nervous system. Motor output from spinal cord is coming through ventral root, right? But after the trunk, motor output goes to dorsal ramus as well as ventral ramus. Am I clear? No problem up to this? Right. Now, basic structures, you know that there are receptors. Receptors are taking the stimulating the neurons, sensory neurons. Sensory neurons are taking information to the spinal cord through the dorsal root ganglion and dorsal root. When information comes to the spinal cord, then ascending tracts have to take the information up. This is a very basic concept. Now, listen. White matter of spinal cord is divided into, this is one white matter. What is this? This whole area of white matter, this is called dorsal column. There are of course two dorsal columns. There are two dorsal columns. Is that right? Or you call it dorsal funiculus. Dorsal funiculus. Dorsal columns or dorsal funiculus. Of course, this is one funiculus, and together they are making two funiculi. Is that right? Then these are dorsal columns. And which columns are these? Yeah. These are lateral column. Is that right? What is this? This is lateral column. And what could be this? Anterior column. Of course, here what should be coming out? Motor fibers. And there is of course sensory input. Input is from the back and output is from the front. I'm talking about simple neuroanatomy. Right? So, in the spinal cord, how many major white matter areas are there? Dorsal column, lateral column, and anterior column. Is that right? No problem up to this. So when we will talk about the tracts, tracts must be running in dorsal column system or lateral column system or anterior column system. One thing very important. In the dorsal column, there are most only ascending tracts. In the dorsal column, there are only ascending tracts. But in the lateral column, there are ascending as well as descending tracts. In anterior column also, there are ascending and descending both. It's very basic information. The spinal cord has anterior columns, lateral columns, and posterior columns. Is that right? These columns are having tracts. Is that right? For example, if there are a lot of neurons sitting here, and from these neuron cell axons come and go upward from here, so this will be making a tract. Right? What you have to remember, dorsal column is purely ascending tracts. But lateral columns and anterior columns, they have some ascending tracts and some descending tracts. Am I clear? No problem. Now I will talk about different types of tracts, but you know it now that tracts must be either in dorsal column, or they should be in lateral columns, or they should be in anterior column. Before really I go into detail, as far as ascending tract system is concerned, do you think which are more modern and which columns are more primitive? You know, according to the evolution, as we are getting more evolved and better animals, we are bringing more modern neuronal bundles and connections, which are very recently developed. Recently mean few million years back. Out of these, do you think, no, I'm talking about only ascending tracts, right? There are dorsal ascending tract system, there are anterior ascending tracts, and there are lateral. So I'm saying that which one is the most modern? Anyone knows? Anyone who has studied the tracts in history? No. Most modern are the dorsal column. Dorsal column. Dorsal column system is the most modern tract system. Ascending tracts. Of course sensory, they are pure sensory. And anterolateral, they are primitive tract systems. Anterolateral tract system is a primitive tract system, ascending tract system. That is why the ascending tracts which are present in anterior column and lateral column, some very good neurologists combine them together, and in the discussion they say there is anterolateral ascending system. Anterolateral is a primitive system, and dorsal is the advanced system, modern system. A very simple question. In America, there are two types of roads. Some roads are so-so, which were made about 100 years back. And the modern roads which they are making, interstate highways and I think motorways, what you call them? The modern ones.
Expressways.
Yeah? Expressways, okay. Actually, this is expressway. I will call it motorway, fast expressways, super road. And this is like for slow sensations. Let me prove it. The bundle, dorsal columns are heavily myelinated, and anterolateral columns are lightly myelinated. So where the traffic will be fast, action potential traffic? Dorsal column. And where it will be slow? In the anterolateral system. So which should be modern then? Dorsal column. High speed system. This is the neuronal expressways, and these are probably dirt roads. They do serve their purpose. Don't laugh at them. They're very important. I will tell you very soon you will realize a lot of colors of life are due to anterolateral system. But let me tell you, dorsal column system is advanced system. The ascending tracts are heavily myelinated. So that is a high velocity system, low velocity system. High velocity system. Anterolateral system is a primitive system of ascending tracts. So do you think if anterolateral system is a primitive system, it should be heavily myelinated or poorly myelinated? Poorly myelinated. Do you think anterolateral, which is a poor system, it should be high velocity or moderate or slow velocity system? Slow velocity. You know, on dirt road, every car going slow, and on expressway, things are going fast. Another thing. The modern sensations which we have developed, they should be present in dorsal column or anterolateral? Dorsal. And primitive sensations should be present in anterolateral. Is that right? For example, crude touch. Crude touch means not a fine touch. Crude touch. Anterolateral. Very fine touch. Dorsal. Do you need to memorize this? It's so simple. That this is the dirt roads and these are the expressways. This should be high velocity system. This should be anterolateral, should be low velocity system. Anterolateral should be primitive. Dorsal should be advanced. The sensations which are going from the dorsal system should be more well-developed sensations, and sensations which are from anterolateral should be crude sensations. Now let me tell you one thing. Anterolateral system has sensations. Okay, first tell me one question, answer something. Do you think the traffic variety of the vehicles is more on the dirt road or variety is more on the expressway? You have never observed. One of the vehicle is donkey driven vehicle. You find it on expressway or on the dirt road? So every type of vehicle will move on the dirt road, primitive road, every type of vehicle. Is that right? You can find on dirt road even Mercedes moving somehow. You will find maybe horse-driven cart on the dirt road. You may find even someone going on the bicycle on the dirt road. But do you think you find horse-driven cart on the expressway? Or do you find someone going on the bicycle on the expressway? No. So variety of traffic should be more in the dorsal column system or anterolateral system? Anterolateral system. Dorsal column system is a high velocity system, very specialized sensations, very good sensations, but more variety of sensation is present in anterolateral system. Let me tell you. You want to know about the anterolateral sensations first or the dorsal sensations first? Anterolateral, primitive you should know first, then we'll talk about the advanced things. Okay, primitive sensations are like sensation of the pain. When biological system evolved, very early it evolved the pain system, so that you know there is something unpleasant and try to do something about that. So pain should go by anterolateral system. Temperature, heat and cold should go by anterolateral. All those sensations which can go a little bit slowly are anterolateral system. And there are some sensations which should go with very high velocity, and those sensations should be analyzed by central nervous system with very accuracy, with big accuracy. Those should be in the dorsal column. Is that right? As I told you, crude touches in anterolateral and fine touches on dorsal column. Is that right? Pain and temperature is in anterolateral. Crude touch is anterolateral. What do you think? Sense of tickling. It's a modern sense or primitive sense? I don't know. Even our forefathers know how to tickle. That's a very primitive sense. I don't think you do anything very modern with the tickling. Right? So those things have been done by our generations, and that is why we are here. Is that right? So tickling. Tickling is a modern sense or primitive sense? Primitive sense. So it must be going through anterolateral system. Okay, itching. It's a very modern sense or it must be primitive? It's an old sense, not a great sense. So it should be in anterolateral. What about sexual sensations? Don't tell me there are no sensations. Sexual sensations, they are different than simple touch. For example, mother touch is a different thing. And girlfriend touch is somewhat different. Am I right? Some element of sex may be added, especially when she is not angry. Is that right? So these sexual sensations should go through dorsal column system or anterolateral system. You must be thinking as a young boy, it must go dorsal column very fast. But believe me, it's one of the most primitive sensation. Is that right?
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
That's why all of us are here. Yeah, we are the children of the people who made love, thank God. Is that right? So, what I'm talking about, that ventral column system, sexual sensations should go through ventral column, anterolateral system, dorsal system. Anterolateral system. So there are so many variety of sensations. There is crude touch, there is pain, there is heat, cold, tickling, itching, sexual sensations. All these are anterolateral. None of them need to reach to central nervous system with super velocity. But there are some sensations which need to reach the central nervous system with super velocity, and those sensations need to be analyzed by central nervous system with extreme accuracy, right? With extreme accuracy. Those sensations are dorsal column. One I've told you already, fine touch. What else goes through dorsal column system? There's a concept of proprioception. Have you heard of the term proprioception? So she's going to tell us what is meant by the proprioception. Anyone? Sensations coming from the locomotor system. That's so simple. Sensations coming from the locomotor system are proprioception. Proprioceptive sensations should go to the central nervous system really fastly. Is that right? For example, you are running. Then your central nervous system need to have very fast data. Which part of the body is in which position? Which muscle is how much tense? Which joint is how much angulated? Is that right? So that you don't any mistake. You know, proprioception and sense of position is very rapidly, constantly given to the central nervous system, so that central nervous system can analyze and update itself very, very rapidly. It should not happen you take one, you know, when you are walking, did it ever happen by chance you took your both legs off the ground? Thank God. Proprioception is going so well, the central nervous system is taking the information from all the systems, locomotor system, and it knows where is one foot, where is the other foot, and when one foot is coming up, the other should remain there, should not be taken off. Is that right? And when it is coming down, then it should be taken off. Because central nervous system is constantly having trillions and trillions of action potential through the dorsal column system going to the higher level. Right? And it is computing and updating its information. Am I clear? So proprioception should go by anterolateral system or dorsal column system?
Dorsal.
And what about this, more refined thing? Sense of position, which is a type of proprioception. Dorsal column. Because position, even with your closed eyes, you know what is the position of your body. Right now you know how you have crossed leg or how are your hands. Are you aware or not? You were not thinking, but as soon as I said, you started thinking. Actually, central nervous system is receiving the sense of position at two levels. One level is where you are aware of sense of position, and other level where you are not aware. When you are aware of your sense of position, we say that sense of position of proprioception is going up to the conscious level. That information goes up to cerebral cortex. Whenever action potentials, sensory information come to cerebral cortex, you become aware of the sensations. But lot of sensory action potential and sensory input is going to the cerebellum. And information which is going to the cerebellum, you are not aware of that. When you are walking and looking to someone else, are you taking care how your legs are moving? No. Cerebellum is automatically computing, taking the proprioception from the ascending tracts. Some of the ascending tract go to cerebellum, and then cerebellum control and compute the motor system automatically. You are even not aware of. When you are sitting right now, and when you are not thinking of your position, you are not knowing the position, but your cerebellum was knowing your position. Is that right? Every moment. But you are not aware of that. But as soon as I said, do you know where are your hands without looking at them and how your legs are? Then what happened? You activated the channel which are already taking information to proprioception to cerebral cortex. Is that right? So what I was telling you, that a lot of input is going on, and proprioception as well as you can say fine touch, sense of vibration, sense of position, sense of 2-point discrimination, right? All these senses are modern senses, and they must go by the dorsal column system. Is that right? If something vibrating touching you, or something which is repeatedly moving, of course, if such information is going by a slow system, you will not analyze it well. Is that right? Or there's a sense called 2-point discrimination. 2-point discrimination means that you are simultaneously touching the skin at two very close points, and central nervous system knows that these are two separate points. That analysis is done by the that action potentials are taken by the dorsal column system. Another thing, do you think the traffic which is going on the expressway, that is more in the proper columns, or traffic which is going on the dirt road, that is in more proper columns? In the lane and line system for the traffic is more followed on the expressways or more followed on the dirt roads? Expressways. Same is true about this system. The tracts which are taking information in dorsal column system, right, those tracts take information so well, right, that you can localize everything. For example, maybe this area is taking information from the foot, this is taking information from the leg, this is taking from the trunk, and this is taking from neck. I'm just giving an example. Is that right? But here, fine touch is going here, crude touch is going here, crude touch. Right? Now, if you have closed eyes and someone touches crudely, are you sure exactly which areas of the body are touched and how much it is touched? You are not sure. But if someone touched with a fine needle, are you exactly sure where you are being touched? Why? Because fine needle activates the action potential, sends the action potential through dorsal column. And the layers are maintained so well that when information reaches to the cerebral cortex, it can exactly localize where someone has touched. This is called spatial orientation, line and lane principle. Is that right? Opposite to that, if someone is crudely touching, you may not be knowing exactly where someone is touching. You may be saying someone touching your hand, but if someone touched with a needle, you know exactly. Is that right? Am I clear? So line and lane principle is better followed by the dorsal column system and poorly followed by anterolateral system. That is why pain and temperature is not so well localized as is the localization of fine touch. Someone touches with the needle, you know exactly where someone has touched. But if there is some pain going on, you may say there is pain here, maybe little there. You cannot exactly pinpoint, especially when pain is dull. Is that right? So now you know already that ascending tracts can be classified into dorsal tracts and anterolateral tract. Dorsal tracts are advanced tracts, anterolateral are primitive tract. Primitive dorsal tracts are highly myelinated, anterolateral are moderately myelinated. Dorsal tracts are high velocity, and anterolateral ascending tracts are with less velocity. Dorsal tracts give better localization, gradations of the sensations. Anterolateral system give poor localization and poor gradations of sensations. Dorsal column has more modern sensations like proprioception, fine touch, vibration, position. Anterolateral system has primitive sensations. Is that right? If this basic concept is clear, then I start dealing with the individual tracts. Anyone who is not clear about this thing? Everyone is clear? Okay. Now let's start with it. What do you think? We should do the ascending tracts or dorsal column system first or anterolateral system first? I think we do expressway first, the modern system, right? We'll see that how the sensations, from where the sensations are coming to the dorsal system and how they are going to the higher center, right? So I will draw here one spinal cord. And I have to draw basically at least two sections of spinal cord. In diagram, right? Now, these are two sections of spinal cord I have shown you. Of course, spinal cord is going down. Let's suppose this spinal cord area is receiving the sensations from lower limb, and this area is receiving the sensations from upper limb, right? Now, how the sensations come for dorsal column system? Dorsal column system is basically for sense of fine touch, vibration, position, proprioception, 2-point discrimination. Is that right? Now, these sensations which are going to dorsal column system, we should start from the receptor. We should start our concept from receptor. So, which are the receptors which take up such fine sensations? Number one, of course, there should be sensory nerves, right? But at the end of the sensory neurons, receptors generate the activity. There are Meissner's receptors. Have you heard of them? Receptors. And then there are Pacinian receptors. Let's suppose this is Meissner's receptors and this is Pacinian receptors. I will have a full lecture on receptors, so I will not go into detail of them right now. These are usually from the skin and subcutaneous tissue. They are taking fine touch and vibration, especially Pacinian. And then there are Golgi tendon organ and muscle spindles. Yeah, muscle spindles. This is muscle spindles. And then there are Golgi tendon organ, right? So all these sensations are going, do you think they will enter into central nervous system through ventral route or dorsal route?
Dorsal.
Of course, dorsal route, right? Thank God, at least that is clear. I must congratulate myself. Yeah. So this is the trunk, right? I must make here also dorsal. Now all these sensations which are fine touch, pressures, vibrations and proprioception, all this we have to take up to the cerebral cortex. But we are starting from here, from sensory neurons, sensations are coming, sensory nerves. Now I just follow one of them. This is the cell body, dorsal horn, dorsal root ganglion is having the cell bodies of first order neuron. First order neuron means the neurons which are first in the chain of sensory system. So their cell bodies are in dorsal root ganglion. And actually from here their peripheral process is going to the receptors. And their central process is going to the central nervous system. There it divides into lateral root, we'll talk about later, and it also divides into medial root. From the medial root, fibers go medially into which area? Dorsal column. And these fibers start going upward. Right? Now what happens? On the way, more and more fibers are added. Is that right? This is, suppose, C7 level. And this is, let us suppose, L1 level. So L1 is receiving, this level is receiving the fibers from the lower limb. Is that right? And here it is receiving the fibers from upper limb. Now, sensations from the lower limb, they are going through this area upward. Is that right? From the dorsal column on the medial side. Now, as it is going in the spinal cord, let me draw a spinal cord here. This is the spinal cord, this is its central area. Sensations from the lower part of the body will be deposited, their fibers will be deposited medially. The fibers which are coming from upper part of the body, they are deposited laterally. Are you understanding? Within the dorsal column, sensations from the foot will be most medial. Then from the calf will add to that here. So what we see, here are the sensations going from the foot, then just lateral to that sensation from the calf, then sensations from the thigh, then sensation from the lower abdomen, then sensation from upper abdomen, then sensations from the upper limb. Because, why this is happening? Because sensations are being added. Is that right? Fibers are being added. Am I clear, Rodney? Yeah. You are understanding it? Right? So, you must know the spatial arrangement of dorsal column, first of all. Again, I will make it more clear. If this is the spinal cord, this is the centrospinal cord, fibers are coming, going like this. So, you have to tell me, now listen carefully, and of course in opposite side also fibers are coming and they're adding on lateral side or medial side? Lateral side. So in dorsal column system, the fibers which are more medially, they are from lower part of the body, and fibers which are more laterally, they are from upper part of the body. You may be thinking, why I'm teaching it with such a stress? There are reasons. Because if you develop a tumor here, and this tumor disturbs the medial, lower limb sensations are lost. But if you develop a tumor this area and disturb the lateral fibers, then upper part of the body sensations will be lost. Am I clear? Is it right? Now, what really happens, that all the fibers which are coming from the lower limbs and then up to the T6, they're adding, they make a special bundle going upward. They make one very special bundle coming from the leg, and the fibers which are coming from the upper abdomen and thorax and from the upper limb, they are making another bundle but on the lateral side. Now, this medial bundle should have sensation from lower part of the body, and lateral bundle should have sensations from the upper part of the body. Is that right? This medial bundle is called fasciculus gracilus, and lateral bundle is called fasciculus cuneatous. You may get confused, right? The gracilus, which is from the legs, or cuneatous from the leg. How you remember them? No. Okay, one thing he says, gracilus muscle is in the leg, and of course then, but that will confuse. Maybe you think it's a motor system, but it is actually sensory. Why don't you remember in a more passionate way? Her legs are graceful. If her legs are graceful, which fasciculus should take these graceful fibers, which are taking sensations upward? Gracilus. Is that right? He knows it. So, fasciculus gracilus is taking sensations from the lower part of the body, graceful part of the body, right? And cuneatous is taken from the upper. Now in the spinal cord, if you add the fibers like this, look, this is dorsal column system, and it is having these 4 bundles, 2 on the right side of dorsal column, 2 on the left. You know it already that these are 2 fasciculus gracili and these are 2 fasciculus cuneatous. Gracili are from lower part of the body taking fine dorsal column sensations. Now onward, all sensations which come from in the dorsal column, I will call them dorsal column sensations, which are fine touch, vibration, position, 2-point discrimination, and like. So dorsal column sensations from the lower part of the body are in gracilus, from upper part of the body are from the cuneatous. No problem up to this? Really clear? Now, if we make section of the lower part of spinal cord, it will have both columns or only one? One. But if you make section in upper part, both. You understand why? Your cortex is working. Right? Really, you know it, that if you make a section in lower part of spinal cord, then the only bundle from the lower part has been formed. But if you're making section at the upper part of the spinal cord, you will find not only fasciculus gracilus is there, but there's also lateral to that, there's addition of fasciculus cuneatous. Is that right? Now, it means that if you stimulate with an electrode, if you stimulate here, patient will feel sensations are in the foot. If you stimulate here, it is in upper part. If you stimulate here, patient will feel sensations in the hand. So it means all the sensations are arranged in these fibers, or fibers are arranged in a very topographical fashion. Topo, this is the line and lane principle. It is not possible that if foot sensations are here, suddenly here become abdomen and then sensations of leg come. No, they have to be in a special line and lane principle. So we can say this is foot sensations, this is, you can say, leg sensations, abdomen sensations, and here are what sensations? Arm sensation. Right? So this is the principle. And foot is with the foot. Is it clear? What is the principle then? If there is some tumor in the middle of the vertebral column, you lose the sensations in both foot. But if tumor starts from the lateral side, eating up the dorsal column, you will lose sensation in upper part. Am I clear? So this is topographical arrangement of these fibers. And again, as you see, that fibers are added from this side. So up to now, what are these? These are the central processes of first order neuron which is present in dorsal root ganglion. These are the peripheral processes, and this is the central processes. Right? Now, as these fibers are going up, where they will reach eventually? Now, I will make more simple diagram again. I hope you understand this diagram. This is lower section, this is upper section. Fibers come. First order neuron cell body present in dorsal root ganglion. Peripheral process connected with the receptors. Central process enters into spinal cord from the dorsal root. As soon as it enters into spinal cord, it goes make a medial division, and this medial division fibers go into dorsal column and start ascending through the dorsal column. Medial fiber has fasciculus, gracilus, which are coming from lower part of the body, and lateral fiber going as fasciculus, cuneatous, which is coming from the upper part of the body. Same is here also, because sensations are coming bilaterally, right? And this is fasciculus gracilus of left side, and this is fasciculus cuneatous of left side. Am I clear? The very important thing you have to note it, now sensations are going upward, right part of the body, sensations are going upward through the right half of the spinal cord. And left side of the sensations are going upward through the left half of the spinal cord. So we say dorsal column sensations are moving uncrossed. They have not crossed. So they enter from this side, they come in spinal cord, and they move upward without crossing in the spinal cord. Throughout the spinal cord, they are moving upward ipsilaterally. Mean right dorsal column has sensations from right half of the body, and left dorsal column has sensation from the left half of the body. Am I clear? And actually, how many bundles it is making? 4 bundles. Is that right? Now, we go to